US presidential candidates have clashed on how the country would pay for a dramatic overhaul of the health system. 10 contenders for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination have taken to the stage in Detroit for the second televised debate. Bernie Sanders was forced to defend his proposal to implement a universal healthcare system, which some of his rivals say is too ambitious and will be far too costly.
They are friends, they are Senate colleagues, and they have become a lot closer in the polls. And right off the bat, the big showdown on the debate stage wasn't between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. It was Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren defending their progressive positions on issues like border security and health care against more moderate candidates on the stage.
Health care is a human right, not a privilege. I believe that. I will fight for that.
We don't have to go around and be the party of subtraction and telling half the country who has private health insurance that their health insurance is illegal.
Let's be clear about this. We are the Democrats. We are not about trying to take away health care from anyone.
I'm the only one on the stage who actually has experience in the healthcare business, and with all due respect, I don't think my colleagues understand the business. We have the public option, which is great.
With two top-tier progressives taking center stage, moderate candidates further back in the polls tried to make a case for Democrats taking a different direction.
That is incorrect. I just have a better way to do this.
With a much steeper bar for the next round of debate entry, some taking one more chance to get voters' attention on the national stage.
You don't know that, Second of all,
we'll come to you in a second,
I do know, and I wrote the damn bill.
Everything that we're talking about here tonight is what's wrong with American politics.
Candidates also touching on gun control, prices for prescription drugs, and the best ways for Democrats to defeat President Trump next year.
The way I won, the way we can win is actually focusing on the economy and democracy aren't working for most people.
And earlier I spoke to CNN reporter Richard Roth about just what this meant, the clash between the progressives and the moderates.
Yes, they were a tag team act. There may be more time down the road for them to go at each other, but it was clearly the divisions in the Democratic Party on full display on a stage in Detroit, Michigan. You had the moderates that included some congressmen, governors, senators, against the senators Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. And it was a pretty interesting, serious policy discussion. Not sure how many viewers it might have held for 2.5 hours. Health insurance and the healthcare industry, the big first topic, went on for at least 30 minutes. And basically, Sanders and Warren, they want to have a big, quote, Medicare for all program, free health insurance that may exist in other countries, but not the U.S. However, opponents that are more in the moderate wing say that's wishful thinking, and you're never going to get centrist Democrats who want to vote against Donald Trump, that you're going to lose their support because you're taking money out of their paychecks to pay for all of these big programs such as health insurance.
I guess this is one of the interesting things, isn't it? Do the Democrats want to end up with someone with that big reform platform, talk about serious debate, or try to play Donald Trump at his own game and attack the man, if you like?
Mayor Pete Buttigieg, the young man from South Bend, Indiana, said at one point in the debate, no matter what they decide, Trump and the Republican Party will just call them a bunch of crazy socialists. He made some very cogent points throughout the debate, framing his arguments with the bigger picture. After the debate, the Donald Trump campaign put out a statement quoting Trump, in effect, as saying, same old socialists, Democratic radicals, that the real winner of the debate was Donald Trump. I don't think Donald Trump supporters are going to be peeled away by this debate. The question is, which one of these candidates can motivate not just a base, but get people to be passionate and to turn out to vote against Donald Trump? May not be that easy as it sometimes appears when the President of the United States sends out a racist tweet or says something off the wall. There's been a bit of a Trump fatigue, but also a politics fatigue almost in the country. We're over a year away. But then the primaries will start about 180 days from now. So for these candidates, a lot of them, it was their big and maybe only chance to stand out on a stage with 10 candidates and another 10 tomorrow night.
You mentioned the only chance to stand out. Marianne Williamson perhaps did a good job of that, suggesting there should be a Department of Peace and referring to Trump's dark psychic force. What do you make of all that?
Yeah, she was in effect criticizing her candidates, the fellow candidates, for being policy wonkish and that you can't compete against these dark forces, or the Democrats are going over to the dark side, something like that. She's a spiritualist book author who definitely brings a different stance to this debate. But a lot of people are saying, why are candidates who are only polling at 1%? let's get him off the stage. Now, this may be the biggest crowd we'll have. Afterwards, the next debate is going to demand that each candidate draw at least 2% in polls, plus get additional money from donors and funders. Some of these candidates may not be able to clear that bar. Should be an interesting poll or two after these debates. Sometimes people don't trust the polls, but if any of these moderates want to show some traction, that'll be where it'll come from. And then, you know, in these races, momentum can build quickly. Somebody becomes the flavor of the month, and then they might be seen as a big challenger to Sanders and Warren. But right now, that person is Joe Biden, a former vice president, a lot of name recognition, a lot of heavy support in the African-American community, which Mayor Pete Buttigieg and others here do not. This was not exactly the diversity of the Democratic Party on display on this stage. You'll get that tomorrow night.
We will get that tomorrow night, and a cull in the not-too-distant future perhaps as well. Richard Roth, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.